The assignment. Captain Elias Vance had never been this far from Earth. The shuttle trembled as it entered the blue atmosphere of Lemuria, the jewel world of the Andarian cluster, home to crystalline seas and towers that shimmered like ice under twin suns. He wasn't supposed to be here. Humans were still considered primitive by most of the galactic races. Yet the Galactic Council had ordered a diplomatic exchange. One human guard to serve among Lemuria's elite. That elite turned out to be Princess Seraphine Lyra Eloria, heir to the Lemurian throne. And she was not pleased. "You must be joking," Seraphine said, her violet eyes narrowing as Elias stepped off the shuttle. Her voice was musical, each syllable like a note from an instrument. "A human to guard me. Did your council run out of actual soldiers?" Elias had heard worse. He bowed slightly, the way his diplomatic briefing instructed. "Captain Elias Vance of the Terran Defense Corps, Your Highness. I'm honored to serve." "I did not ask for your service," she replied, turning away in a swirl of silver robes. "And I do not require it." Elias stood in silence as the palace attendants stared at him, a rough-edged human with short dark hair and worn boots, out of place in their world of polished marble and floating light. Still, orders were orders. And he'd promised himself that no matter how much she hated him, he'd keep her alive. To the Lemurian princess. Lemurians were ethereal beings. Luminous skin, veins that shimmered faintly under the surface, eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies. Seraphine was the most radiant of them all, yet she lived surrounded by danger. Whispers of rebellion had spread through the lower moons. Some factions believed humans were spreading too fast, too greedy, and that their presence on Lemuria was an insult. Others, more radical, wanted Seraphine dead because she supported an alliance with Earth. Elias had been briefed on all of this. What he hadn't been told was how much Seraphine resisted the alliance herself. She didn't trust humans. She thought them reckless, war-born, and driven by emotion. He saw it in her every look. Every morning she practiced with her plasma staff in the palace courtyard. Graceful, disciplined, deadly. Elias trained nearby, keeping watch. She pretended not to notice, but he could tell she did. "You're wasting your time, Captain," she said one morning after weeks of silence between them. "No one would dare harm me here." "Your Highness," Elias replied, adjusting his gauntlet scanner. "Assassins tend not to announce themselves." "Then perhaps they should," she muttered, striking her staff against the marble. "At least then I'd have something interesting to fight." Her tone was defiant, but beneath it, Elias sensed something else. Loneliness. Free the attack. The first attempt came during a royal gala. Dozens of ambassadors from across the sector gathered in the palace dome, under a canopy of holographic stars. Seraphine wore a gown of woven light, her skin glowing softly as she smiled for the cameras, a perfect image of calm and command. Elias, stationed on the upper balcony, scanned the crowd through his visor. The music throbbed like a pulse. And movement. A shadow near the serving droids. A glint of steel. "Get down," he shouted. He leapt from the balcony as the explosion tore through the room. Energy rippled across the hall, shattering glass and throwing guests to the floor. Elias tackled Seraphine just in time, shielding her body with his own as debris rained down. When the smoke cleared, screams echoed through the chamber. Elias's arm was bleeding, but he didn't move. Seraphine blinked up at him, startled, her usually serene composure shattered. You saved me." "Part of the job," he said, wincing as he stood. "Next time, maybe listen when I tell you to keep guards close." Her hand brushed his for a moment, light as air. "You're injured. I've had worse. But something changed in her gaze. For the first time Elias saw gratitude. And something else, something unspoken, buried deep behind those violet eyes. For the bond. After the attack, Seraphine demanded to train with Elias daily. If someone tries again, she said, I want to be ready. He agreed, partly because he admired her determination, partly because he didn't want her to see how much he respected her already. They sparred in the courtyard under Lumeria's twin suns. Her style was elegant and precise. His was blunt and human. She moved like light, he fought like gravity. The contrast amused her. You rely too much on strength, she teased one afternoon, parrying his strike. Lumerians fight with balance, not brute force. Balance doesn't help much when someone's firing plasma rounds at your head, he shot back. She laughed, really laughed, and the sound caught him off guard. It was the first time he'd ever heard her sound alive. As days passed, their rivalry became friendship. He learned about her mother's death, the late queen who'd been poisoned by extremists. She learned about his lost squad, men he'd failed to save on Titan Station. They found solace in each other's honesty. Then, one night on the palace balcony, as the stars shimmered over the horizon, Seraphine said quietly, Do you ever wish you could leave it all behind? The duty, the titles, the wars? Every day, Elias said. But someone's gotta protect the people who still believe in peace. She turned to him, her eyes softer now. And you think I'm one of those people? I think you want to be. That night, neither of them spoke further. But the silence between them was no longer cold. Via the betrayal. Peace didn't last long. 3 weeks later, the rebellion struck again, but this time from within. During a diplomatic summit, a Lumerian general loyal to the extremists betrayed the royal guard. Palace defenses went offline, and energy barriers collapsed. Ships descended from orbit, raining plasma fire across the capital. Elias and Seraphine were trapped in the command spire. Communications were jammed. Reinforcements, hours away. They're after you, Elias said, locking the door. We need to move now. I won't abandon my people, she cried. They'll die if you're captured. Her jaw tightened. Then we make a stand. He saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire he'd seen on the training grounds, the same that had made him respect her, then care for her. He nodded. All right, let's give them hell. They fought through the corridors side by side. Plasma bolts scorched the walls. Elias fired his rifle with precision, covering her as she channeled bursts of energy through her staff, hurling back attackers in waves of light. At one point she stumbled, a blast grazing her shoulder. Elias caught her, pulling her into cover. She gasped, pain flashing across her face. You shouldn't have come here, she whispered. You'll die because of me. He looked at her, sweat and ash streaking his face. If I die, it's because I chose to protect you. Something cracked inside her then, the walls she'd built, the pride that had kept her distant. She reached for his hand. You foolish human. Yeah, he said, grinning weakly. That's what they tell me. They kept fighting, until a shockwave tore through the spire, knocking them apart. Elias's calm crackled. The enemy was activating a fusion core beneath the palace. If it detonated, half the planet would burn. 6. The sacrifice. Elias didn't hesitate. You need to get to the evac ship. Seraphine shook her head. I'm not leaving without you. Someone's got to disarm that core, he said, reloading his weapon. And I'm the only one who can bypass human tech signatures. Her eyes filled with tears, a sight that stunned him more than the explosions outside. You can't. The radiation will kill you. Then I guess this is goodbye. She grabbed his arm. Elias, he smiled. I told you once I'd keep you alive. I meant it. Before she could stop him, he turned and sprinted toward the reactor chamber. The air was thick with smoke and the hum of unstable energy. He ripped open the access panel, overriding alien circuits with improvised code. The countdown flashed in alien glyphs. 30 seconds. He heard her voice through the comm, breaking with static. Elias, please come back. He didn't answer. He pulled the final lever, rerouting the surge. Light engulfed everything. 7. The aftermath. When Seraphine awoke, the sky was clear again. The enemy ships were gone. Her guards had returned. The core was offline. But Elias Vance was gone. They found his body near the reactor, burned, still clutching the override cable. She fell to her knees beside him, the world silent except for her breath. 4 days Lumeria mourned. The rebellion was crushed. The alliance with Earth was sealed in honor of his sacrifice. But Seraphine didn't attend the ceremonies. She stayed by the memorial garden where he was buried, beneath the twin suns. A statue of him stood there, rough, imperfect, human, just like he'd been. One night, as the wind carried the scent of star lilies across the field, she whispered, "You were supposed to protect me, not leave me." Then, faintly, a spark flickered in the air beside her, a holographic echo encoded in his gauntlet. His voice, weary but smiling. "If you're hearing this, guess I didn't make it. But hey, at least I finally impressed a princess. Do me a favor, Live. You've got a whole galaxy to lead." Tears ran down her cheeks, glowing like stars. She looked to the sky. "You foolish human. I can't live without you." And somewhere, among the distant constellations, it almost felt like he was listening. Weeks passed. The palace rebuilt, the alliance sealed, and Lumeria entered a new era of peace. Yet Seraphine felt no victory, only the quiet ache of absence. Every corridor reminded her of him, the human who had stood his ground in a world not his own, who'd faced death for a people who'd never truly accepted him. Every morning, she walked to the memorial garden where his statue stood. His likeness carved in dark stone, head slightly bowed, hand resting on his plasma rifle. Around the statue bloomed a new species of flower, pale blue petals that shimmered with faint energy. The botanists named them Vance blooms. They only grew near the memorial, nourished by the radiation from the reactor he'd disarmed. Lumerian poets said they carried the soul of the man who saved them. That evening, as the sun sank low, painting the towers gold, Seraphine stood before his statue once more. She wore no crown, no royal armor, just a simple white robe. Her eyes reflected the twin horizons, but her voice trembled as she whispered, "I used to think humans were reckless, emotional, weak. But you proved me wrong, Elias. You showed me that strength isn't born of perfection. It's born of love, of sacrifice. And now, I don't know how to live without you." A soft breeze moved through the garden. The flowers swayed, their petals glowing brighter. Then, a flicker from the statue's base. The holographic gauntlet she'd preserved activated, projecting a faint blue image in front of her. It was him, Elias, smiling that tired, lopsided smile. "Hey, princess," the recording said. "If you're seeing this, I guess I didn't walk out of that reactor. Figures, huh? I was never good at keeping promises. Except the one I made to you." She sank to her knees, tears blurring the projection. "I know you don't need protecting anymore," his voice continued. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. But if you ever feel alone, look up. Find the brightest star in your sky. That'll be me keeping watch." I'll always be right here." He touched his chest in the recording, then pointed upward. The hologram shimmered, fading. Seraphine pressed her hand to her heart, whispering through her tears, "You foolish human! You gave me everything. Even hope." She stood then, looking to the heavens. Among the constellations, one star glowed brighter than the rest, a flare of blue light pulsing softly, as though in answer. For the first time since his death, she smiled. And in that quiet moment, with the stars burning above the glass towers of Lemuria, Princess Seraphine vowed that the story of the human who saved her, the human she'd once sworn she didn't need, would never be forgotten. Because love, she realized, wasn't bound by race or world or even life itself. It was eternal,